Oh, that's right. ACI 13 class 6?
Part 1.
ACI 13 class 6 part 1 with John Buchanan 2015.
2015.
In the year 2015, there was a man.
That I love that.
Not my doing.
So cute.
I'm really struggling with where to sit today.
Yeah, you can take your
Where are these people sitting? Where are you sitting behind us? I think I'm 13 next to you, so two new
Clive.
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 What was Clive doing last night last time in the class? He was not coming. I don't know.
Clive didn't come out much last time. He's quite the little. He's very comfortable. How long? How much longer do we have Clive for? Another week?
Another week.
Where
We're hosting cats.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You look quite comfortable.
He was instantaneously comfortable.
Cats just kind of do that once they get over their
Once they get over it.
freakiness.
The last
they
cat
can
was not.
Yeah.
Took him a while, but this guy
Just instantly.
he's a little.
He's
a little tough guy.
happy camper.
He's a little tough.
What happened to your last cat?
Do you mean the one that we? Oh, the owners came back in town.
Oh.
Kismet. Yeah, we had him for like 2 months, something like that. Yeah. They were in Saskatoon, so it was sad to see him go. Get really used to him.
Is it 7:30?
Very good mission.
I'm gonna just do that.
This is like
Sorry about the heat. So, so someone explained the prayers for you. Okay, so we'll do some opening prayers and do a brief meditation before we start. We'll get Amanda to start us off today.
Sashi Buddhi Jushin Meito Tramri Rabling Shi Nyende Genpati Sangye Shindu Mente Oma Nidra Kunanda Shema Chupasho Idam Gura Hamala Kamitayami Sangye Sridam Soki Chokama Chanchu Badu Daki Kapsuchi Daki Jinyin Kipe Sunamki Jola Panchir Sangye Chupasho Sangye Chudam Soki Chokama Chanchu Badu Daki Kapsuchi Daki Jinyin Kipe Sunamki Jola Panchir Sangye Chupasho Sangye Chudam Soki Chokama Chanchu Badu Daki Kapsuchi Daki Jinyin Kipe Sunamki Jola Panchir Sangye Chupasho.
Do a little meditation. take notice of how your body feels as it rests. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the cushion. Wherever you happen to find your body to relax into the earth. A wonderful and simple practice just to ground yourself anytime during the day. Take a moment to feel your body supported by the earth. Pulling your mind in from distraction. Think of it like food, nectar for your health. Just simply check in often during the day. Take a nice deep breath, filling with air, using that breath to elongate the spine, reaching the crown towards the sky. And then as you exhale, the shoulders relax, but the heart lifts and the crown stays slightly lifted so that you feel like you're relaxed, but you're also attentive, open. Let's watch the breath at the nostrils for a few minutes. So just parking the mind's focus at the tip of the nostrils and being aware of the air as it passes these points. Watching for the full duration of the exhale. Being aware at the pause, and then watching for the full duration of the inhale. If you can do that without being distracted, then that would be one successful round, one successful meditation. Simply watching the breath in and out, one time. So then we can piggyback onto the next breath. Can we pay attention for the second cycle or the third cycle? And if we lose count or get distracted, simply starting at 0 again. you actually can do that and make it all the way to 10 breaths, 10 breath cycles, then you probably never needed to use the tool of counting, and you can just simply be aware of the breath. Counting just gives you one more thing to occupy the mind. Keeps it interested. Relax the jaw. Give yourself a gentle smile. Brighten your inner world by gently smiling, inner smile. Call to your holy teacher, or a holy teacher, or somebody who you consider to be some kind of teacher for you, and that may be a figure from history. It could be your mom, your sister, your brother, your friend, a wise person. But for now, you're going to call them your teacher. You're going to imbue them with the quality of teacher. Take a second to rejoice in the virtue or the positive energy that it takes to actually really consider someone a teacher, someone that can help you. It's positive. It's a positive thing. Born of a positive seed. Bow to them in your mind 3 times. Body, speech, and mind, bow to them. Make them an offering of some kind. Highest offering always being your practice. But you can offer them anything that you like. Especially if you know them and things that you know they would like. See them there. Get the sense that they have been with you for time with no beginning. They've always been there with you, just waiting for you to see them. Their love for you is very...
Oh, Jesus. Sorry.
Oh, Clive. Sorry. It's okay. He's not really shy. And then make some kind of confession to this holy teacher. Tell him something that you wish you had done differently in the last 24, 48 hours. Get it off your mind. Then tell them something that you're happy that you did, rejoicing in something that you did that was good. And then add to that by rejoicing in the goodness of somebody else. Tell them about something that someone is doing or has done that you're excited about. Very beautiful. rejoice in the goodness of others. And ask them to stay with you, ask them to stay and ask them to teach. Ask them to teach in ways that are easy for you to understand, ways that are very useful and clear, helpful, that you can follow daily. And then especially ask them to help you understand the class that we're about to do, this Tibetan Buddhist logic, hard to understand, can be. I say it takes a lot of merit to understand the stuff that we talk about in these classes in particular. So ask them for help. And of course they agree, and they shrink down to what the size of your thumb, floating in the midair in front of you. And they turn to face the same way you are, and they land upon the crown of your head. And then they dissolve into light, golden light, and dissolve into your crown and sink down through your central channel and reappear inside your heart. And see them very, very at home inside your heart. Their love for you, you can feel it inside your own heart. And then their wisdom and love fills your own heart with light, golden light. And then this golden light bursts out of your heart chakra and fills your whole body, and then bursts out of your pores of your skin, and then just radiates out to all beings. And all beings are blessed with love and wisdom. And rejoice in everyone's happiness. And then allow the light to withdraw back into your heart. Thank your Lama teacher for being there with you. And then you can slowly, gently coming back to the room. And just try and stay grounded and centered, feeling like you've got this place in your heart where your teacher lives. And you're right here. Nowhere else to be. Did the heat increase exponentially as the one's fan got turned off, right? So we'll turn the fan back on. This might help open this door a bit louder. Okay, here we go, class 6. So we're in the middle of a Tibetan logic class, which I'm sure you're aware of, right? So Domingo, this is Domingo is your name.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is your first time being in any kind of group where they were studying Buddhism?
Actually, not really, because I used to do this in my hometown.
Oh, great. Okay.
But in this kind of group, yeah, it's my first time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what we're doing right now is studying a topic called Buddhist logic. And I don't know, have you ever done any studies on Buddhist logic?
No, just read
Yeah.
some.
It's pretty rare, I think, to study it. And at the end of the class, we'll do a little bit of like Buddhist debate, and then we'll have some fun doing that. But really the whole premise for the course is to learn methods to prove things to ourselves that aren't obvious. You know, things like past and future lives, things like that. Things like the nature of reality, how things are appearing to us. Because what was one of the most important things that what was very important to like the Buddha, who came out and started teaching? What did he say about what he was saying to people, the people that were listening?
Don't just take it for, don't just believe it. Just
Yeah.
check out the ideas for yourself.
Yeah, don't just take it as truth just because I'm wearing a robe or something and saying these things. It's very important. So like, healthy doubt is good, right? Because we have to go after them. If we have something in our mind that is I don't know, niggling. Like, is it possible to become a Buddha? Is karma real? Does karma work? Are there past and future lives? Like, if we don't really, buy into past and future lives, then this whole thing doesn't work. And it's one thing to just, okay, I believe in past and future lives. It's another thing to sort of prove it to yourself if you haven't seen them directly in your meditation. But the harder, the hard stuff to prove is the stuff that, how do we prove to ourselves over and over again that this problem that we're having, or this annoying person that we're experiencing as an annoying person, is not an annoying person from their own side. We have to prove that to ourselves over and over and over again. And that's why we're always talking about negative things. What isn't there? What isn't there? So, Buddhism is big on what isn't there. They're not, they're way more into what isn't there than what is there. Because everybody thinks they know what is there, or they're trying to like create something to be there. And the Buddhists are trying to create something, or trying to negate something. They're trying to negate things. They're not trying to build something. We're always building fantasies and realities. Trying to get things that we believe make us happy. But if we understand the thing that isn't there, if we understand that the qualities that we believe are inherent in people and objects, if we can even logically prove it to ourselves, then we can stop the cycle. We can actually stop the cycle. And what is the cycle? What is the cycle? Samsara. Samsara, right? And how do we know that we can get out of samsara? What if we didn't even know what samsara was? What if we didn't know that it was possible to break that cycle and actually not be forced into rebirth and have a different kind of a body and a different kind of mind? Like, do we really know that? Do we really believe that? And if we really did know that, and really did believe that, how would we be acting every day? Where do we put our hopes into? I was talking to somebody today, about that, and invariably, people will come to you, or your own mind will come to you. Your own mind will say, "Hello, Amanda. I had an issue," right? And my husband pays more attention to his mother than he does to me. I should be number one. I should be number one. And that's a problem. That's like, then there's this, our mind is like, oh yeah, that's a problem. I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to talk to my friends about it. I'm going to get on the phone and talk to my friends about it. I'll even maybe talk to my husband about it. Maybe. I'll try and fix him. I'll try and tell him that this is inappropriate. I should be number one. Right? In order, and this mistake that, well, if he actually ignores his mom a little bit and pays more attention to me, then I'll be happier. And Buddhism teaches what isn't there. What isn't there? What isn't there is the thing that we think is there. And that's the problem. What isn't there is there's no happiness and there's no unhappiness in that situation other than the label. Because how do you prove that to yourself? How do you know that? Well, what if you're in the exact same situation and you didn't have a need to be needed? Then it would be totally different. You'd be like, oh yeah, awesome, he's with his mom again. Great. I'm so happy for them both. But so we'll like transfer. We transfer our needs onto the world. We're always doing it. And so in that situation, what do you want to do? You want to sit there and think, okay, how can I change my husband? And so you can think, like, what's your compass? What does your compass point to? Do you want you're following your compass. Does it lead to like samsara or does it lead to nirvana? Like if you want to take your compass and point it towards samsara, well then I guess you get on the phone and talk to your friends about this problem and think that if I fix my husband, I'll be happy. But if you point your compass towards nirvana, towards Buddhahood, then you're going to think, oh, I created this whole situation with my karma. If I want to feel important, then I better make somebody else feel important. I better make my husband number one if I want him to think I'm number one. And not only that, why do I got to feel like I'm number one? That's kind of like, that's something right there that we should be thinking about. And so today we're talking about negatives and positives. And you see how that situation, I mean, you can take any situation and relate it to that and notice how we instantaneously, the mind, for a normal person, instantaneously goes to the positive in that situation. The positive meaning what looks like is there. This problem, this dynamic. How do I fix it? It's harder for the mind to go, well, what isn't there? What isn't in that situation? And what isn't in that situation is always the same thing that isn't in any situation. And what's that? What isn't in any situation? Or thing we see? What isn't there? What it is isn't there? Oh, so things don't exist. Oh. Things do exist. So you're saying that things do exist, but they're not there. Oh, so you're saying what isn't there? So you're saying what isn't there is the concept?
No.
Something else isn't there.
Yes.
Okay, you can't tell me what that thing is. You can't tell me.
That's true.
You can't?
That's not true.
It's not true. Show. Show.
The thing that isn't there is that thing exists independent of something else.
So you're saying that the object lacks. So you're saying what isn't in the object is the quality of it being independent. Isn't in the object.
No, I'm not saying that.
You're not saying that. You're saying something else. Then what are you saying?
I'm confused.
You're confused.
And I think that's what we do. We confuse the object.
Right. So we confuse the object. So for Domingo's benefit, we're going to do the mighty clock. Okay, so what isn't in this clock?
Clockness.
Clockness, the clockness monster. Clockness is not in this object. So we could say that this object is empty of clockness. It is empty of the clockness monster. Because really, that is the monster, the nest monster, really, isn't it?
Where is clockness?
Exactly. We're going to hopefully get there. This is very cool. This is the whole new meaning to the nest monster, the clock nest monster. Because everything that we see, if we misunderstand it, is a nest monster. We've got paper nest monster, guitar nest monster. Is that? John nest monster, yeah, definitely. Mark nest monster. Okay, so then, clockness. So Amanda has said that clockness, there's no clockness in this object. So what Amanda is saying is that because there's no clockness in this, then this object does not tell time. That's what you're saying. There's no clock here, so it doesn't tell time.
It functions as a clock to me.
It functions as a clock to you.
Yeah, but I don't see it as having self-nature.
You don't see it as having self-nature.
It doesn't function as a clock to Clive.
To Clive, it doesn't function as a clock. Okay, so if it doesn't function as a clock, to Clive, then when Clive looks at this object, he sees something that is not a clock.
This is a hockey.
You know Clive? He sees a hockey puck?
Yeah, I'm assuming.
You're assuming, okay. So but whatever he sees is not a clock, probably. So, the concept clock, we could probably agree, the concept clock is not a concept that Clive, the cat, has. We can say, probably. So that's what clockness is. You could say the quality of clock, or the concept clock. So this is like from previous classes. In this course, we talked about a concept called, there's a clock, there's the clock, and then there's clock, in quotation marks, or clockness, right? But this is a very, very cool life-altering exercise that you can do for all things. It's like, where is the clock? I'm holding up this object, and if Clive doesn't see clock, but someone else does see clock, is it a clock? It's not a clock. That's too bad, because I'm late for work. I need to know what time it is. See? Does that mean it's not a clock?
No, so okay, so
It's not self-existent.
So it's a clock, but it's not the clock.
No, yeah, sure. No, well, it's the clock. It's the clock. It's a clock, and it's also the clock. But where does clock come from? Where does the idea clock come from? Right? So really, where is clock? Where is the idea clock? Where does that exist? Chinese going like this. In the brain,
It exists
in the mind.
certain humans that
Right.
have experienced clock.
Whoever sees it as a clock, that's where it resides. This clock, any clock, resides in the minds of anyone who has the karma to see it as a clock. So, this object is empty of clock. It's empty of clock. How do we know that? We know that because what if it wasn't empty of clock? What if it was full of clock? What if clock was here? Just how it looks, you see? What if this existed exactly how it appears to exist? Right? It looks a lot like clock is here, doesn't it? And that's what this course is for, or pretty much all the courses, but this one gets right into it, is that proving to ourselves over and over and over again what we're always assuming. Yeah, that's a clock. Clock is in the clock. The clock is not here. The clock is there first. And how do we prove to ourselves that that's impossible? Because how we say, well, what if it was full of clock? What if clock was here? What then? What would that have to mean?
Everyone.
Everyone, everything, every being. Every being would look at this and wouldn't need a concept, clock. They would just look at it and the clock would tell them it was clock.
You would be born and you would just know it was a clock.
Yeah, somehow, right?
They would tell you.
And, you know, it would be pretty, I mean, even, it's a great exercise to sit down and just try and imagine what a reality could even be if this had clock in it. It just doesn't make any sense. The world that we believe is there actually makes no sense at all. It's actually impossible. It's impossible. We believe in an impossibility. And we, why is that important? Why is that important? So we understand where things are coming from. And we start with clocks. We start with things that are safe to look at. Where it gets harder is, it gets harder when you're talking to someone or you're in experience and they say something like, I'm not happy because. I'm not happy because. I'm not happy because I didn't get this. I'm not happy because this person didn't do that. I'm not happy because I got ripped off at the grocery store. You know, or I'm happy. I'm happy because. We don't think about that one too much. I'm happy because. I'm happy because everything was on sale at Safeway today. I got $20 more in my wallet. Not understanding how it could be that $20 in where it even came from in the first place, but why it would, you know, buy so many more things at the Safeway than it did that day before. But that's the emptiness part. Okay, that's what isn't there. And then there's the other side of it, which Mishi was talking about, was the dependent origination, or the karma side of things, right? Why? This is the important, big piece. Why do we see a clock? What makes us who we are is the fact that we see a clock. Everything that we see is a reflection of what we are. So, you know, why is it that one person could look at an object and find it beautiful to look at, and another person could look at the very same object and just find it unpleasant to look at? Or a song is a good idea, a good example. We play a song, and you know, maybe we play an ACDC song, and you've got, you know, a bunch of people saying, "Wow, what a great song!" Another bunch of people saying, "That's garbage. How can you listen to that? It hurts my head when I listen to it." Right? So why? Right? Why is that? Why is it that we can play a song that we love, but we play it over and over and over again, all of a sudden it's no good anymore? We're tired of the song. We think, oh, the song's no good anymore. So, why? Someone tell me why. Someone tell me why a person, let's just say, let's take the example of a song. Why does one person hear that song as beautiful and one person hear that song as not nice?
Memories.
Memories? So memories are causing feelings about objects. So if two people had the same memories, they would feel the same way about a song. So
Not necessarily.
not necessarily. So it can't be memories. See, we need something that is true every time. So if we want to prove it, if it needs to be a proof, it needs to work every time, right? So, or let's take another example.
But like, I mean, what I'm saying about memories, could it be applied? Because, like,
Apply?
you know, like, for instance, if everyone has a good memory related to a song, then that song, when it appears again, would make those feelings arise.
Okay. Then, if you want to talk that, then where did that good memory come from? How did that good
From
memory come?
feelings.
Was that?
From feelings.
From feelings. So the good memory came from feelings. So there was a moment in the past. Maybe it was 10 years ago. I was at a high school dance, and the boy asked me to dance, and it was that song. I remember it so well. Wow, it was so great. 10 years later, you hear the same song. Oh, yeah, it feels good. So you're saying that. So what you're saying is that memory of the past caused that good feeling about the song. Is that what you're?
Yeah, but not necessarily.
Okay, but here, not necessarily. Why not necessarily?
I mean, I have examples in myself. I used to hear songs that I liked very much, and I even had good memories. And now I could listen to it for 2 minutes, and that's it.
Okay.
And that time I could listen it over and over again, but now I like.
Okay, so here's an example of, like, in Buddhism, they want to find the ultimate cause.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so we're talking about memory. Okay, fine. Memory. There's like a condition, a causes and conditions at a certain time created a positive experience of that song. Now I associate this song. Okay, let's take it further back. What about at the high school dance? What happened there? Why did the boy come up to me, or you, or her? Why? How did that happen? Karma. See, it's like it's always trying to find the cause. So karma. What's karma? Do you know what karma? You must have talked about it. You know what karma is. Yeah. So karma. Someone here can say what karma is. What is karma? What's the definition of karma? Any movement of the mind is actually karma. Any movement of the mind. So, really, when we talk about karma, a lot of times we're really talking about a result of a movement of the mind that happened before. So any movement of the mind is planting a seed, because it's always in the mind before you do something. The movement of the mind instigates that, like, slap her across the face, slap him across the face, give her a hug, give him a hug. It's in the mind before that can happen. Okay. So any movement of mind is karma. So that's pretty open. So then, what are the 4 laws of karma? Or is it 3 laws of karma?
You always get like that. They go ahead. One law is that they grow.
Right. They grow over time.
Yes.
The seed that is planted grows over time. So you can do a small act of kindness. Lifetimes later it can be like a miracle. Or you do a small act of unkindness. Lifetimes later, it's a car accident. Because it grows. Okay?
Planted it, you're going to reap it.
Right. If you plant it, you must get the result. You must get the result.
Good comes from good, and bad comes from bad.
Right. So like to like. You can't get, and this is the crucial one, really. You can't get a positive result from a negative deed. You can't get an orange tree from an apple seed. So, this is everything. This is everything. Right here, in this little talk we're having, is everything that you really need to know. Because, do we believe that? We can sit here and talk about it in class, but do we believe that? A lot of times we're not really thinking too much about that, because we would be more generous. So if you can't get a negative thing from a positive act, and vice versa, then every positive thing you've done gives a positive result. Every negative thing gives a negative result. And there's lots of neutral result. All the things that we don't really care too much about, that are just around. So what are the 3 types of results? Or the 3 types of causes, you could say, that we plant? Positive, negative, neutral. Okay. When can karma ripen?
This life, the next life, or any lifetime after that.
This life, next life, or any lifetime after that. So there we have it, the whole Buddhist path right there.
So what is the 3rd law of karma?
Pardon?
What is the 3rd law of karma?
We actually said 4 of them. But what is one was karma is certain, meaning if you plant the seed, you will get the result. It depends how you look at it. You can divide them up. But 2, how do you word? Well, good leads to good, bad leads to bad, right? And then 3, karma grows. And also, if you don't do it, you don't get the result. If you don't do the deed, you won't get a result. So we've got those. This is like this warrants your attention. This warrants like daily attention. Like going over this simple thing. Hi, Kenji.
When I look around me,
Yeah.
things are intelligent. Our universe operates on an intelligence. That to me doesn't seem very intelligent. That's something that I did 10 lifetimes ago. I'm going to do it.
But when you say it's intelligent, can you be more specific?
I'm just saying when I watch things grow and I see
Yeah.
like, yeah. Things,
Well, here, okay. The thing is, like,
things
so when
work. Things happen in front of me. Causes and results happen in front of me. So I want karma to function like that so that then I get it. Like if I'm reaping something I did 10, 20 lifetimes ago, what good is that to me? I don't know what I did to hurt people.
well,
Do it to me now, then I can get the result right now.
well, that's the trouble about karma, isn't it?
But so that
Is the
doesn't
time
make
gap.
sense. That
Well,
doesn't
no,
make any sense
but
to
this-
why it would be created like that or why it exists like that.
Okay.
Nature's like that, though.
Pardon?
Nature's like that. If you throw seeds,
Yeah,
sometimes they come up, sometimes they don't come up.
but you still see them coming up, right?
Well,
Only a
this is-
lifetime you do.
But that's why we have to logically prove it to ourselves, because that's not going to happen. You know, the chances of a normal person being conscious of the seed they plant and that result actually appearing is very small. Why? Karma. You see, it's such a tricky idea. You know, why? It's all pervasive in the sense of, why do you have the karma to be looking at a world which you see as intelligent, as right?
It's not random.
What's that?
It's not random. I see it's
Well,
not
no,
random.
but being just that very thing. You see, the very concept of an intelligent universe, that's also dependently originating. That's that there's if it was self-existent like that, then everyone would agree with you. There could be no person that could walk into this room and say, God makes everything happen. You see, it's all a perception. It's all, and it's benefiting you or it isn't benefiting you. So what you're talking about is a great example of the different schools of Buddhism, because in the lower schools of Buddhism, they're like, yeah, things function, so they exist, and I can understand that. And one thing, they depend on their causes and conditions, and that's all good. And that's as far as I need to go. But the reason why we talk about like past lives and future lives and the time gap and all that is so that we can get our head around the fact, so that we can buy the fact that I should be generous if I want more abundance. If not, how else are we going to believe it? How else are we going to get it?
That's just faith then. I mean, when you
Is
say
it just, it's not just faith if you can get to it logically. Because if you can, like, another way to go about it is, what are the other possibilities? If it's not random, and if it's not an omnipotent being making it happen, what's the other possibility? There is no other possibility that I know of. We're causing our reality. What else is causing our reality? If it's not God and it's not random, what is it? And if we exist as a timeless being, then that means we've had lots of time to screw it up or make it good. So
I think you have to really believe that, though.
You have to-
really believe that we are timeless and that we've been around however many lifetimes before. Which
that's
is very
why we're in this
hard
class.
to intellectualize.
You do have to believe that, and in order to actually be a functioning Buddhist, you do have to believe that.
And you
and-
can't intellectualize it. How can you unless you debate it?
You have to prove it to yourself on the
Yeah.
cushion. You have to logically, or else it's weaker. It's weaker. Then the faith is weaker. Like, right? Faith that is strengthened by logic and having all these doubts and proving themselves, I don't know, would you say, annihilating the doubts by logic, that's a much more powerful faith. Because faith without doing that, it's kind of like it's not enough.
You know when you said earlier about witnessing previous lifetimes on the mat and the
Yeah.
So when I've had experiences like that, I don't know if that's real. That's just my imagination. That's just fantasies. Like, are you going to get to a point where, yes, I know this happened to me today because I did this 20 lifetimes ago,
Mm-hmm.
and then know that for a fact? Like, do you get really good at meditation where you can say unequivocally, yes, that did happen, and it's not just my mind playing tricks on me?
They say in scriptures that only a totally enlightened being can know exactly the seed that was planted. Like they say a totally enlightened being can look at anyone and say, I know why your hair is brown. Like everything. You know? But you don't have to be a totally enlightened being to get close to that and have those kinds of experiences. You can get, your karma can get better and better, and your meditation, your stillness of your mind can increase, where you can have a direct knowing of your past lives. And you can have a direct association with the things that are happening in your life now, and that's why. Yeah, it does happen. And is it helpful? It's kind of like if you're at that point, then you kind of don't even need to know that anymore anyway, right? It's because if everything is true, if everything works, to what we just all talked about, then there's this, for some reason, we all have a certain kind of karmic result that is showing us this object, and we all agree it's a clock. And everyone in the room will feel differently about this object. And everyone in the room will feel differently about time. You know, time is a whole other matter, you know, let alone the clock. So the ultimate thing that isn't there, this is what we're trying to get to, and it's always been about this, is that Buddha's talking about what isn't there. The ultimate thing that isn't there and has never been there is anything that could arise in our world that was not caused by our karma.
There's nothing that hasn't been caused by our karma.
There's nothing that hasn't been caused by our karma that we are perceiving, that we are experiencing ourselves. And that is the big thing that the Buddhists are trying to teach everyone.
Okay, so that there is something that hasn't been caused by our karma that we will experience the day we get rid of our karma.
Can you repeat that?
Is there going to be one day we don't have any karma?
In order to be outside of karma, you have to be a Buddha.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so there is a thing that exists that we experience when we are Buddha.
Oh yeah,
So that is
everything's awesome when you're Buddha. Everything is awesome. And you know, you don't have to move from Vancouver. It's right here. You see, this is what we're talking about. This is why we're talking about it. This is the whole Buddhist path right here, in a way. Because if what we are, if everything we look at tells us what and who we are, and everything that we look at and experience, including ourselves experiencing it, is arising dependently because of the karma that we've done, then it's completely possible to see ourselves and our world in an entirely different way. It could get worse. It could get worse, or it could get supremely better. And that's what we want, so that our love can explode, you know, so that our love can just expand and that we can take care of lots of people and love lots of people without needing anything in return. That's the whole point of this. The whole point of this logic class is for that. Is just for that. And how do you get there? By behaving in certain ways. Why would you? Well, because everything we just said. So that was the emptiness, that was the karma and the emptiness talk of just about this object. And if you can get it about this object, then, you know, is there anything in your world that you can say exists differently? Right? So if I say this clock is or this object is empty of clock. And we all agree that this, to see it as a clock is dependent upon my projecting it as a clock from my mind. If that works for this object, is there any other thing that I can see? Is there any other thing in my world that I can look at and name as something that doesn't exist the way this clock exists? How could there be? How could there be? Can anyone think of something that exists independent of our projection of it being what it is for us? I'll take your silence as a no. You can't think of anything. So that means that this clock is a product of our karma. So that means if this clock, if you look at this object and you don't go into like, wow, what a bliss enticing object, then you're not quite done yet. Then you're just like, I guess, human. I guess you're just a normal human. Because when you're done, then you look at this object and every other object, and your karma is such that is forcing you to see everything as a bliss enticing object. And you know it's not in the object. You know it's here first. So,
But can I just clarify something?
certainly.
The object still exists. It's still physically there,
Is it?
but it just doesn't exist the way you think it does.
Right.
Meaning that you have to have an idea in
You
your
want
mind.
to find, so you're looking for raw data now. You're on the hunt
I'm
for raw
always
data.
looking for
The hunt for
raw
Red
data.
October.
The hunt for what?
The hunt for Red October. So,
This is the thing that constantly
and it should.
does my
It should.
nut in.
The raw data. Yeah, it should. Because, okay, we don't have time for this. But let's just, in a nutshell, we'll say, you know, you can try and find the raw data. You know, you should do that. That's my assignment for you. Is take an object, any object in your house, and put it on your altar, and just say, okay, raw data, I'm coming for you. I'm going to find you. And then you can break it down into parts. And you can take an object, and then, because here's the thing. Anything that you find, even raw data, is still going to be dependent. It's still going to depend on you. That's what scientists are freaking out about. I mean, they can't get down to anything that's existing without them seeing it. It's still an idea in your mind, and you know, we're hanging on so tightly. We want things to exist out there independent. And, but you know, it's enough. It's enough to even, you don't have to worry about the raw data. You can reach raw data, meaning like, well, you mean, are you saying there's no clock there at all?
On the raw data.
The object, whatever we're imputing, right? Whatever we're imputing, there must be something to impute the idea on.
Yes.
Exactly. But then you could just go down layer after layer after layer. Okay, well, what about that? How do you know that's? How do you even have the idea of raw data? Where's that coming from? You see, it just keeps going and going, and it's supposed to be like that until you like freak out and see emptiness directly. You get so tired of trying. Your mind gets so exhausted by trying to find a self-existent thing that you pop into this direct perception of ultimate reality. So it's very good that raw data is cranking your noggin. It's a very good thing to be thinking about. So you should try and find it. See if you can find it.
Is there a specific age where we start teaching this to kids?
This kind of thing?
Yes.
I think they're 12 years old by the time they start.
When
Yeah.
they start having abstract thinking.
Well, when they start debating, they're 12 years old. Up until then, they're doing a lot of memorizing. So I've been told. I don't know for sure. I've never been to a monastery. So from what my sources, which I think are good sources, he's 12 years old. I think we need some light on here. Need some more light.
So 12 years old, are you welcome here?
Anybody's welcome here. Okay, we're going to start class now. We're going to whale through some stuff and then we're going to debate.
Maybe we do that outside.
Debate outside? You must be hot. Okay, we're just going to go through a few things, okay? This class is supposed to be about negatives and positives. And here, okay. Here's a definition of a gakpa, or it's a Tibetan word for a negative thing. A negative thing that exists, okay? A negative thing that exists, all right? It should be some kind of object. Does non-existence exist? Just leave that. Leave that. Put that one in the cooker. You can tell me later. We're not going to go down that road. Unless maybe we can debate that. Does non-existence exist? Okay. Okay. The definition of a negative thing, is a thing which must be perceived by the state of mind which perceives it directly through a process of eliminating directly that which it denies. I'm going to explain that. I'll say it. The definition of a negative thing is a thing which must be perceived by the state of mind which perceives it directly through a process of eliminating directly that which it denies. So really that's just a fancy way of saying the gotcha. It's just a fancy way of saying that. It's a fancy way of saying the only way that we can talk about the emptiness of this clock is by talking about directly excluding something. The mind has to exclude this clock as being a self-existent clock in order to see it as empty a clock. That's all that means.
So what is the gakpa on your clock?
What is the gotcha?
Gakpa, right? That's what you said, right? Gakpa.
A negative thing. So the negative thing, well, I mean, I'm sure that gakpa and gotcha are related, but a gakpa is just a negative thing that exists. So, right, the gotcha is the thing that we deny. The gakpa is the negative thing. Right, so the gotcha is the positive thing, and the gakpa would be the negative thing. So the negative thing would be what isn't here, right?
Well, it's the
Oh,
same.
okay, so it's the same thing, just
It's the same thing,
Yeah.
if you notice,
The
right?
gakpa is the process.
Right. So, well, if you see this clock as a self-existent clock, existing independent of your perception of it as a clock, then you are looking at the gotcha. Okay? Because the gotcha is the object we deny. The Buddhists deny. No. That doesn't exist. But we can imagine that it exists, and that's why they call it just like the pink elephant in the middle of the room. Because we can certainly imagine that this object is self-existent, just like we can imagine a fluorescent pink elephant. Doesn't mean it exists. Just because we can imagine it doesn't mean it exists. You got something there?
Oh, no, I'm just thinking of this. So it's like, because we believe something wrongly about an object, like say if we all believe this was red, the gakpa is that first we have to be pointed out that it's not red.
Yeah.
That's the negative thing.
Yeah, it's a
And then
process.
we can say
It's a process of eliminating the thing in order to get to the other thing. Like it's a process. Like like in order for a person to perceive emptiness, you must first exclude self-existent things. So that's what they're talking about. And if you think about it, that's really the only way that you can actually ever think about a negative thing. There has to be something that you're negating in order for it to be negative. You can't just say a negative thing unless it's in comparison to something that you're actually taking out. So, because emptiness is the absence of something. It's the absence of something. Never think of emptiness as something positive. You'll just get in trouble. So you could say, this is nice. So emptiness is a gakpa. And the opposite is a gakcha.
But there's no gotcha.
There is no gotcha other than, there is a gotcha. There is a gotcha. There's definitely a gotcha. There's gotchas bloody well everywhere because they're all jhanas monsters. What's that?
It's full of emptiness. Gotcha.
It's full of emptiness?
Isn't the gotcha positive?
The gotcha is the object we deny. So the gotcha is this as a self-existent object. That is the gotcha. And the gakpa is the emptiness of it. Is the thing that's not there. Just like dependent origination and ultimate reality. Like they go hand in hand. Karma, emptiness, you can't have one without the other.
So is it right if I say the gotcha that there is no gakpa if there is no gotcha?
Yeah.
The gakpa is only
It
because
depends.
of
No,
gotcha.
we mean there's no gotcha to Buddha. That would negate the fact that they're like a.
There is no gotcha for a Buddha.
Right. So then what she's saying wouldn't be correct.
A gakpa depends upon a gotcha. If you want to say, well, I guess no, you're right. If you want to get technical about it, it's not that a gakpa depends on a gotcha. It's just that they work together, because you can still have a negative thing and not see a gotcha, because a gotcha is a mistake. It's a mistake the mind is making.
So you just said the Buddha is not a mistake. It's not a gotcha.
Buddha doesn't see an object to be denied, right? Because the Buddha sees.
Yeah. Buddha doesn't see. Even an Arya, doesn't believe in self-existence. They're kind of, when a person sees emptiness directly, they're only, they're kind of seeing gotchas only kind of sort of for a while, and then they stop seeing gotchas.
I thought you were saying that the Buddha, from what I'm understanding, the gakpa and gotcha are two sides of the coin. And so the Buddha wouldn't have one of those?
In a certain way they are. In a certain way they are, but not ultimately. In a certain way they are, because they're married in the same way that, yeah, exactly. But a totally enlightened being does not see a gotcha.
What about, would a totally enlightened being have those sides of the coin or not?
They would, yeah, because they experience reality. Because, a totally enlightened being sees dependent origination and ultimate reality at the same time. Right? So they're having this amazing experience, but they're also completely aware of the emptiness of it at the exact same time. So here's some examples of negative things. So we've been talking about emptiness this whole time. But in this school, this is a larger school, they don't do emptiness the way that we've been talking. They do selflessness. So when they're, you wouldn't, in a logic text, you wouldn't see the word emptiness, you see selflessness. which means something different. So for them, it's like, for them, that's ultimate reality, the way things really are to them. And so selflessness to the lower school means the way things, the real nature of things. And this is going to sound very similar, but it's not. And according to this school, if you want to perceive the real nature of things, first you have to exclude mentally all those things which are not it. Okay? So that sounds a lot like when we talked about dunchis and how they say how we make our mental images, but it's not quite the same thing. The texts say that they want to say it's not quite the same thing because it's more conscious. It's on a more conscious level. You're actually consciously aware of yourself, negating all that this isn't, so that it arises as a clock. So this is an idea that the higher schools don't agree with. So just so you're getting more confused. I mean, because if that was true, then everything in the universe would be a negative. Because they're not saying that everything in the universe is a negative. They're just saying this is how you see a negative thing in this school. You negate everything that it's not, putting it in negative terms. Because if this was the meaning, if their way of describing the dunchi as before was the meaning of negative, then you could never find a positive thing. So just, sorry. It would be like going into meditation and where you like directly, consciously, and eliminate mentally everything that isn't a clock, and then just so that you can see a clock. So it's only this is the only school that believes this idea, but it's a useful idea for getting the mind to think in a certain way. Second, here's another idea of a negative thing. Empty space. Pardon? Selfless. Empty space. Otherwise known as namka. Tibetan namka. Okay. So empty space in Buddhist philosophy, they're not talking about the space between these walls. They're talking about, it's more like talking about place. So when they're talking about empty space, they're talking about the space that this object is occupying, or any object occupies. And it's not, and they say it's unchanging and it's always there. Empty space. So is empty space changing or unchanging? Does empty space perform a function? Terji's saying no, it doesn't perform a function. Take empty space, it's a changing thing because sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't. Terji's no. So you're saying no. You're saying it's always there. So what you're saying is, you're saying that empty space is there even, I put this object and there's empty space that it's occupying. Or there's no empty space. There's no empty space, and then there is empty space. When I move the object, the empty space changes. It doesn't change. So it's not a changing thing. So it doesn't perform a function. It doesn't have the function of holding the object. Well, yeah, you could say that. You could say bad reason. Take emptiness. I mean, take empty space. It's a changing thing because sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. You can just say no if you want to. And then I'm going to say, oh, so it's not sometimes there, sometimes not. So it's always there. You're saying. So it's unchanging. If it's always there, it's unchanging. So empty space is an unchanging thing. So if empty space is an unchanging thing, then you're telling me it doesn't perform a function. Because what's a synonym for a changing thing is a functioning thing. So if it's unchanging, it never changes, then it has no function. So empty space has no function. It's not a functioning thing. Right? You agree? Yeah, it's true. It doesn't. It doesn't. And here's why. Because it doesn't actually exert itself to do anything. It's just always there. I was trying to trick you, but you were too smart.
No, I wasn't too smart.
Oh.
I was preemptive.
You're preempted. Damn.
I got a lesson earlier on in the day.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah. So it's another example of a negative thing. The definition of empty space is the simple absence of any obstruction. That's all. The simple absence of any obstruction. I mean, even molecules need a place to be. Even atoms need a place to be. Empty space. Right? But the main idea about empty space is that you have to, the reason why we're talking about this is because you have to mentally exclude the concept of an obstruction to understand empty space. That's why we're talking about it. We're talking about ways that we get to understand negative things. Right? This is to get used to thinking about negative things. To, not that it's a negative thing to think of negative things, it's a positive thing to think of negative things. It's a positive thing to think of negative things. In Buddhist terms. In Buddhist terms. Because? Okay, let's debate it. It's a positive thing to think about negative things in Tibetan Buddhist philosophy because when you think about negative things, bad things happen.
Huh?
We're debating. We've all, this is a debate.
Okay, but
And I should say, before, because you guys are new to debate, the whole idea of debate is I open up a debate not by saying something correct. I say something that is incorrect to start a fight, to start an argument, right? So, what was it? What did you say?
No, just
Because,
you
right.
said it's a positive thing to talk about negative things.
It's a positive thing to talk about negative things, right? So I was having fun with words. So and then okay, let's debate it. Consider negative things. It's a positive thing to consider negative things in Tibetan Buddhist philosophy because when you think of negative things, bad things happen. So when you think of negative things, good things happen. So it doesn't matter what you think, nothing happens.
It's for example, if you think positive, you how can I say you energy, good energy.
Well, so you're attracting good energy. So when you think positive thoughts, then you attract positive things. Yeah.
famous.
Maybe not this lifetime, right? This is the thing about the time gap. It's not that that's not true. You see, but we want it faster. Oh yes, so I'm going to think all these positive things, and I'm going to make this thing happen. And it's kind of like it's kind of like if we're unlucky, we get it.
Huh?
If we're it's almost like bad luck. If we get the thing that we were wishing for, because then we think it was just positive thinking that brought it. You
Yeah,
see?
so like this is the whole thing. Like before I got into Buddhism, like before I went to my first Vipassana, my grandmother is huge into this like science of mind and just change your way of thinking and you'll change your life. And I feel like that's just the easy road people want to take. It's like they want to take the shortcut, but there's no shortcut.
Right, there is no shortcut, but the thing is that I don't know if it's irony is actually the term to use, but it's true in a certain sense, because any movement of mind is karma, right? So it's just that if you think positive things, sure, you will create positive karma. You might not get that result in this life or the next, or it could be in this life. But it's not because of what most people associate with that process. Because mostly they're not thinking about karma and emptiness. They're thinking about like the universe provideth, you know. They're more thinking that. And you know, we could argue about this all day, and we could just keep coming back down to one thing. It's gonna come or it isn't gonna come, and it will be dependent upon, you know, whether you're generous or not. So if you think negative things, yeah, you will create a negative world for yourself because of the law of any thought plants a seed. It might not happen right away. I'm just going to say one more thing before we stop and debate. A negative statement that implies something else. They have an example in Scripture. John Smith. John Smith, the chubby guy who never eats during the day. John Smith, the chubby guy who never eats during the day. So that's a negative statement, which is implying something else, right? Because immediately, what do you think? He eats at night. So that's just an example of a negative statement where you're actually implying something else.
And you would use that in like a persona.
You could use it in a debate, in a circuit, like a.
Or you could, whatever the opponent is saying, you could understand it that way.
Yeah, it's a way to get to a certain idea by implying something else, by implying a negative thing, right? Like, what are some ones? Like, oh, we do it all the time. Oh wow, you're not late today. Right?
I never heard that one.
Never. I bet you've never heard that.
Your hair looks good today.
Wow, this meal is good. Well, you made a really good meal tonight.
Yeah.
Right? We're doing it all the time. And then we're implying other things.
So what is a bad thing?
What is a bad thing? Oh.
Is it that like is it that it would be better not to imply with any statement?
I don't think I could follow you.
Like you're saying, like the first statement, like this guy is a chubby guy, he never eats in the day. We immediately have all these assumptions.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So a clear mind would not have any assumption. Would just, you know.
Well, sure. I mean, a clear mind would hear that and probably make that assumption, but then throw the assumption out. Right?
How do you do that?
How do you do that? Practice. I'll give you an example. Like how it is that we're always assuming. So I was in the store the other day. This is a pretty cool example. I was in the store, and I had some stuff, and there was a kid in the store. looked like he was about 12 years old. And I was kind of, for some reason, I was watching him walk around. He was interesting to me. He was chubby, about 12 years old, and he had really short cropped hair, and it was dyed this kind of wild orangish thing, almost like fluorescent almost. But he was carrying around a backpack, and he kind of slunched over, and he had a 2-liter bottle of Coke. You know, and he's walking around the store, and he kind of looked a little bit sad in a way. You know, and I looked at him, and I knew everything about him all of a sudden. Right? Oh, he's spending all his allowance on Coke. He's desperate for Coca-Cola. He's got to have Coca-Cola. He's actually, you know, walked here because he's so desperate for Coca-Cola. And that's why he's chubby. Because he can't help it. He's got to drink Coca-Cola all the time. He's too. And so I let him in line in front of me. He's only drinking Coca-Cola, right? So, and I'm watching him, and he, you know, he pays. He's really quiet. And then all of a sudden, I think, oh, no. He could easily, this could also be true. His dad's an alcoholic. And and send him, like he sends him every day to get him his Coke for his rum. Right? He's not even going to drink that Coke. His dad, who's an abusive father, is a drunken abusive father who has sent him here to get Coke and does it every day. And that's why he's all slumped over and sad and lonely.
Yeah. You do it all the time.
Right? Right? So that's how you get good at it, is you just notice and laugh. You just notice and then laugh and go, neither one of those are true. Neither one of those are true. And you get good at that and then live in the divine beauty of you just don't know. You just don't know. And then if you can relax and you just don't know, then you can really live. Then you can just experience things. And things can change for you. Then things can change for you because we want the label. You see? We want
We're
it.
addicted to the label.
We're totally addicted to the label.
Like,
We're label junkies.
and I feel like I have
We should be
caught
going to
me-
Labels Anonymous. This class is Labels Anonymous.
Yeah, I can teach you guys to label addict. It's like, you know what, like, I mean, I have a partner, right? I'm with Mark, and we so many times catch ourselves labeling situations, people, and so many things, and it's just ridiculous. It almost makes me mad that I have this addiction.
Well, I can tell you that, I can tell you this, it would be more helpful to rejoice that you're noticing. It will be helpful for your mind because there's a lot of people who don't do that. They just assume the things that they think are actually true. And, you know, that's a pretty rigid kind of a life to live. And it's hard for them to change their mind. It's hard for them to, you meet them all the time. Like, what is it, once bitten, twice shy, right? They have their heart broken one time, alone for the rest of their lives, right? Because their mind's made up.
And that's why gossip magazines make so well.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, how do you get good at that is you just notice it over and over and laugh. Tell your friends about it. I just thought this thing. And it's even great if you get proven wrong. And we do get proven wrong all the time, don't we? But we still try. We still try.
We love the drama.
Yeah, we assume these things, and then somebody, you meet someone new, and you're assuming all these things, and then they keep displaying these amazing qualities to you that you never knew were there, right? That's the thing about, if you remember, one of the reasons why we study Buddhist logic, it's actually the main reason, is what the Buddha said, right? What? Someone can hear me talk. About judging others. If I or someone like me can judge another, but if you're not like me, do not judge another or you will fall. In other words, put positively, just because someone doesn't appear to have a certain good quality doesn't mean they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, because guess what? The whole world is the Clock Nest monster. The whole world, everything in your world is just like that. And all the assumptions you're making, they're being forced upon you. So you can just enjoy the show and laugh about it. And watch it shift and change. Right? Yeah. And that includes yourself. That includes yourself. We assume a lot of things about ourselves. Have you ever noticed that your opinion of yourself is way lower than everyone else's opinion of you?
The opposite.
Right. Sometimes the opposite is true. Both unhealthy. Both unhealthy. Right?
Like I've been working on my life to have very good self-opinion.
Right? And this is the beauty of this idea, is because if someone sees you as a beautiful person, that's their fault, not yours. That's their fault.
That's their virtue.
That's their virtue. And if you get all prettied up and you spent 3 hours on your hair and you go out and the guy thinks that you don't look good, that's his problem, not yours. Your money wasn't wasted. You know, it was like because you treated yourself divinely. You see, that's a karma within itself. To go and get a manicure and all this stuff and get yourself buy yourself a nice dress and treat yourself very well, that has its own result. You treated yourself kindly. If you think you're going to get a result from it, then you're mistaken. Then it's like you just kind of squashed it a little bit by thinking, well, this will attract, the gorilla. Right? This will bring the man, right? This will bring the man, right? This certain perfume, right, will bring the man, right? If you're lucky, you meet the man when on your worst day. Right? On your worst day, when you're like the most yourself. Right? When you're so tired you can't put up any pretense, and they're like, wow, look at you. And you're like, great! This is me.
And you're like, what? Really?
Yeah. Right? God, wouldn't it suck to have someone, marry an idea that you weren't? Anyways, we're going to debate now. We actually managed to get halfway through class. I don't know how we did it.
I don't know, you're magic. But this already made me happy.
That's good. That's good.
You're happy
That's good.
because I...
That's good. It made you happy from its own side. So now we're going to do a little bit of debate.
After being in Vegas, I had so much labor in
Oh, yeah. Sure. Vegas.
Yes, last week. It was intense.
Okay, so we'll do the usual thing. We're going to form 2 lines down here. The couch, the person on the couch will be the defender. Yeah, we better move it. Yeah, move it.
No, just 2 lines. So why is there 2
So, yeah,
lines?
someone will sit on the couch. There'll be a defender, and we'll have 2 lines, and then there'll be an attacker. So does anybody So we've been learning how to do this in this class. So you just
Actually, I can understand, but now that it's a little more complicated if I
Oh, yeah, of
want
course.
to talk. But I can understand.
Oh, great, awesome, great. So does anyone have anything they would like to debate? Anyone have anything hot they'd like to throw around?
That topic that you and Nishi brought up.
What did we bring up?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Gotcha and the got pot.
Not the gotcha and the got pot was does non-existent
Oh, does non-existence exist?
That's really mind-boggling.
Well, yeah, I disagree with that. Like, I'd like to. I don't
Defend
know,
it?
someone- I'd just like to hear it.
Okay. Does anyone want to attack? Should I attack? Want me to attack? Clive's going to attack.
Attacker.
I'm just like, that was me attack you.
Chicken arms, like,
I know
you
you brushed
past me and the chicken arms out like this.
Ah.
Jesus. Yeah.
So remember, so we're going to debate. So
Yeah.
what's that?
You're talking about the teacher when I decided to
Oh yeah.
come on to.
Yeah.
And he said Jesus.
He made himself known. How's it going, Carol? You're awfully quiet tonight.
Could you move the computer a little bit over?
Which?
It's just like it's
Like maybe here?
fall off. Just like
Oh yeah.
on
right.
The center on the...
Why don't we have to do this thing? See what it's looking at.
What's the subject?
Does non-existence exist?
Oh.
So is everybody happy with that debate? And I mean, okay. So remember that if I'm attacking, and you decide that you have a better way to attack, you're totally supposed to, and if you want to, get up and you just push me off to the side, and you just take over, right? And also means you can ask for help.
You're not. You're gonna have to try and do it badly then.
Am I? Should I?
No.
D to the 2 to 10. Existence. Things exist.
Sure. Yes.
Things don't exist. Things don't exist because they're empty.
That's not true.
Well, we just talked about it in class. So the clock, the self-existent clock doesn't exist.
That's true.
The self-existent clock does so exist because people see self-existent clocks.
Yeah, but not necessarily.
So you're saying that just because you're telling me that just because people see self-existent clocks doesn't mean that they exist?
That's true.
Ooh. So then you're telling me that the definition of an existing thing is something that Clive sees.
Not necessarily.
So Clive doesn't see anything that exists.
I didn't say that. Sure.
So Clive does see things that exist.
Sure.
Okay, so Clive sees things that exist. If Clive sees things that exist, that means that Clive is an aria. According to you, because you just said that a self-existent thing doesn't exist. And if Clive looks at an object and he sees existing things, by what you say, that means the cat's an aria, because he understands the emptiness of the object. Otherwise, he couldn't see anything, because the gotcha doesn't exist. Because self-existent things don't exist, according to you.
No.
Repeat that?
Well, teacher, give me a reason.
Reason?
Give me
I just gave you a reason.
Give me a three-part statement, and I can
I
understand.
just gave you a reason. Okay. Consider Clive. Clive the cat is an aria because according to you, he sees things that exist.
No,
Oh, so Clive doesn't see things that exist.
not necessarily is what I meant.
Okay, so you're saying that Clive sees things that exist, and just because he sees things that exist doesn't mean they're self-existent. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right.
Okay, so are you changing your mind then?
No.
So you're sticking with that self-existent things don't exist. Self-existent things don't exist.
Yes.
So, okay. So then you can't tell me the definition of an existing thing in Buddhism.
That's not true.
You can tell me the definition of an existing thing.
That's right.
Show. Tell me. Show.
An existing thing,
Show.
that which can be perceived by valid perception.
Oh, that which can be seen by a valid perception is the definition of existing things. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right, baby.
Oh, well, so I guess that means that the self-existent object exists. Or if according to you, if a self-existent object didn't exist, well then no one in the world could see anything except for an Arya. No one could see anything except an Arya, because an Arya is the only person who understands the lack of self-nature to things. So they're the only people that actually sees anything. Oh, this is getting crazy.
It's not true.
It's not true. Well, so you're saying that an Arya, a person who is seeing things directly, sees objects, and so do people who haven't seen things see objects? They actually see things? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right, baby.
Well, you're going around in circles. Because you say that something with self-existence doesn't exist. But then you just said that anything seen by valid perception is something that exists. So what you're saying is that
I
nobody.
see what you mean.
So you're saying that no one sees anything with a valid perception.
Okay, I take it back. You're right.
Take it back. Take it all back. This is all for nothing.
All for naught.
Okay, so you take it back. So you're saying then that. So now you're saying that self-existent things exist.
That's right.
Self-existent things exist because people see things as self-existent.
That's right.
People see things as self-existent, and so they exist because they're seeing these things with a valid perception.
That's right.
Okay. Then people can only see things that exist. People only see things that exist.
No.
People can see things that don't exist. Okay, so if people can see things that don't exist, that means that the Buddha was wrong.
Why?
Okay, Chi-Chi, good. We just talked about the definition. We just talked, sit together, yeah. We just talked about the definition of an existing thing. You can't tell me the definition of an existing thing. Where do you put it?
It's something I seen from valid perception.
Something is seen by valid perception. Okay, so if something is seen by a valid perception, it exists.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't exist, it can't be seen.
No.
Oh, but it doesn't exist, it can be seen.
It doesn't exist. Can't be seen.
If it doesn't exist, oh, okay, so you
No,
can't.
okay, no.
Oh,
I'm just repeating to understand.
okay, that's good.
If it doesn't, it can't be seen. If it doesn't exist, it can be seen because of the karma.
So you're telling me that even if something doesn't exist, karma will force you to see it.
Yes.
Oh, I should interject at this point to say that it's probably past 9 o'clock. If anybody wants to just leave, this 10 minutes, okay. Just the class is supposed to end at 9. We just been having fun debating. So if anybody needs to leave anytime, leave. Okay, where were we? Okay, so you're telling me that even if something doesn't exist, somehow a person's karma can make them see it,
Yes.
even though it doesn't exist.
Yes.
Okay, you can't give me an example of something that someone can see that doesn't exist.
So the karma, for instance, of you when you saw this guy that was chubby with a mohawk or something like that, you saw things that didn't exist.
Okay, let's go back to the original definition. You can't tell me the definition of an existing thing in Buddhism.
You weren't seeing things from a valid perception.
I wasn't. Can you give me? Let's give me another example. Give me another example of an invalid perception. An invalid perception.
The clock.
The clock is an invalid perception. The clock is an invalid perception because it tells the time.
But it only tells the time to some people who's been educated.
You can't just stop like that. We should tell you the rules. So yeah, we should tell you the rules. So you can't really explain yourself until I go, sure. Other than that, you can say yes, no. You can say I agree, yes, or you can say the reason doesn't follow. A clock, okay, where were we?
The clock doesn't foresee time.
Okay, the clock doesn't exist because it tells time.
That's right.
Okay, so you're saying that anything that tells time doesn't exist. So watch doesn't exist. Grandpa, well, the clock doesn't exist.